Hey everybody, it's time for another TurfZoom brought to you by our friends at the Aquatrolls Company. Today, I am delighted to have one of my old friends on here. When I say old, I mean we're both old, but we're still kicking around. We're still doing some interesting stuff. Welcome to the TurfZoom, Mark Jordan.
Hi, Pat. Hey, thanks for having me on. I look forward to the conversation. And yeah, you had me at old, right? Old friend. So thanks.
What do you say? You might as well be honest about it.
Long time friend. Yeah.
Yeah, we're happy, but happily old farts.
Yeah,
And
for
I
sure.
think that's relevant to some of the things we're going to talk about today.
Yeah.
Because first and foremost, you just were presented with the biggest award that the Northern Ohio GCSAA, the original chapter, one of the oldest chapters in the country, the Northern Ohio GCSAA honored you with the Mal McLaren Award last night. Tell me about that experience and how cool it was to be there amongst all your colleagues to receive an award that is pretty high honor.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for providing me the opportunity here. So it was number one, it was an awesome honor to receive the award. I got a call from uh, Bill Prest a while back saying, "Hey, I'm working with the board of directors, and they've just given a thumbs up on your nomination for the Mount McLaren Award," which I was just completely, humbled by when I got that call with him. What it really means to me, Pat, and I said this in my acceptance speech last night. So there were 11 previous Mal McLaren Award winners, right? So we don't give it out every year, and I, we all think we're different, but I thought this was different because of the lineage of Mal McLaren to John Spodnik to Mark Jordan, right? And so I connected the dot. John Spodnik worked for Mal at Oakwood Club, and Mal was a huge inspiration to John and a great mentor to John. And
Mhm.
so a lot of what John evolved into as a industry leader came from Mal, right?
Yeah.
Up until the point of uh, the 1965, and I don't think too many people understood this, but Cleveland hosted the 1965 conference and show,
Correct.
and Mal was a main reason. So Mal was president in '52 of GCSAA, but I think he was instrumental in getting the conference and show to Cleveland in '65. And so I
Hmm.
told the story last night because I heard it many, many times from John about being part of that show. And Mal basically handed off the educational track to John. And John, as he tells the story, he had it all set up, and he had the agronomics, he had the landscape, he had some minor business stuff in there, but he had it all set up and presented it to Mal. And Mal's like, "That's great. Where's the other half at?" And John's like, "Other half? What are you talking about?" And Mal's like, "Well, you have people from the South coming up to
Yeah.
Cleveland, so you have to have something on southern grasses, southern climate, stuff like that." And to hear John say it, I wish he could tell it because he says better than me, but he goes, "I don't know a bleeping thing about southern grass. How am I going to set that up?" And so John, as he learned to do, he used his resources. He got the right people in there, and they set up the track, and it was a success. And that was the springboard for John
Yeah.
getting on the national board and being president in '69.
That's an amazing connectivity thing, to go all
Yeah,
the way back and then John being your predecessor and your mentor
yeah,
at Westfield and just one of the legends in the industry who we lost a few years ago.
yeah.
But it's remarkable to see that sort of chain that leads right now to today. That's great.
Yeah. And if I stretched it, and I didn't say this last night, but I really want to stretch it. So Mal McLaren, I don't know if you know this, you probably do, Pat, but Mal was a charter member of GCSAA.
Yeah.
So connection there with Colonel Morley, right?
Yeah.
So that whole circle of life and that connectivity, so forth, is just amazing. But that's what made that award so special for me was just having that lineage of mentorship and knowing what Mal did for John and what John did for me and so forth.
We all stand on the shoulders of giants.
Amen. Yeah.
So when you were able to follow in the footsteps of John and others that you knew, you were always involved. You led the Northern Ohio chapter, you led OTF, along the way. You were very, very involved with the Ohio Foundation and the conference, but you were president of GCSAA during a very important time and a very vital time. Looking back on that, what do you remember most? Because it's a lot of work and a lot of effort. But then there are some rewards that come with that. What were the most memorable moments of your GCSA presidency?
So I'm going to go back to toward the end of my term as vice president when John Fulling was president, and as we were in the midst of the whole COVID situation, right? And we had already made the decision to have the conference and show virtually, which was a big decision, right? Because a lot involved, and as you know, Pat, that's a significant amount of revenue for GCSA with conference and show, and making that decision and acquiescing to the fact that we still want to be connected, excuse me, but we also want to do the right thing. And so the discussions and the decisions that were made behind the walls to get that set up in fairly short order. I mean, it was like 8 months that we had to get everything together, change platforms, get the right platform, and do all that logistical stuff. And kudos to the board, but also kudos to Red Evans and the team at GCSAA for feet always chopping. They're working. They want to make it successful. They truly want to be here for the members, right? They wanted to do the right thing for the members. So that was a significant element. But then fast forward to being brought in as president. I kind of wear this as a badge of honor, but being the first president brought in virtually, right? So typically, actually, I told this story last night about John. So when John was helping, he was my advocate for board work, and we had it set up that Mark Jordan could be president of GCSA in 2019, since John was 69, it'd be the 50th anniversary, et cetera. Didn't quite work out that way, but we always wanted to, at the procession of the president, that the past presidents walk the president in, and John wanted to be on my arm walking in. Well, as I think divine intervention provided during that year, John wouldn't have been able to travel, but John was able to see this virtually and be part of it virtually, which for me, did my heart good. To be able to have him as a part of this. And so that was a significant
That's great.
element for me. And then the following year, another decision on conference and show. Yeah, the virtual show was good, but wasn't good enough. We heard back from the members about wanting to have a physical presence. And then, we had to make a decision I think it was by mid-May of that year, if we were going to do it virtually or physically, because we had contractual obligations that we had to commit to. And so we made that decision. A lot of people don't realize this. We made that decision in May, which was early. If you think back to that time, there's just a lot of uncertainty. We had it in San Diego, right? So a lot of uncertainty with the state of California, and they were changing regulation, all that stuff. So we made that decision back then, and we were so glad. When we got to San Diego in 22, we were so glad that we made that decision, because that was the first time we were able to reunite as an industry, and what everybody had gone through was just such an awesome event that we did. And so that was a big part of it.
Yeah, and it was so fascinating because here we are in that kind of strained environment a little bit to bring everybody back at the time when the golf industry is going absolutely crazy. I'm sure, I don't know about you, but I think this is the best economy in golf history. We've never really seen anything like it. And I think it's obviously you brought that along with you with your presidency. So I'm going to give you credit for the best.
Thanks. I don't know if it's deserved, but thank you very much about that. I appreciate that.
So and then you finished out your time as past president and moved your way off the board. And then you chose that moment to say, okay, I think I've achieved what I wanted to in my career, and I'm ready to move on from a long time at Westfield. How long were you there?
So I think all said and done, 36 years. So it would have been, so I retired December 31 of 24, 36 years, November 14 of 24. So yeah, just a little over 36 years.
So in the last 8-9 months that you've been exploring your new chapter, I know just from talking to you that you're always going to focus on family and faith,
Yeah.
but you're also doing some other things. So tell me kind of how you've adjusted from that crazy busy world of being on the GCSA board and running a big organization with 36 holes of golf and a big corporation. How did you adjust to kind of sliding into this next chapter? I won't call it retirement. I will
Yeah.
call it your next chapter.
So what I do say, Pat, is that I retired from Westfield,
Okay.
right? Because that's key. But I tell you what, Pat, the transition from Westfield and for Westfield was really smooth. I had just an awesome uh, assistant, if you will, but he was
Yeah.
superintendent over the golf,
Yep.
Kyle Smith, that did a phenomenal job, and he was with us for 20 years. And so, with the transition in a lot of things that Kyle and I talked about the last couple of years was about success for us is that when I retire, that nobody notices Mark Jordan not being here, and that Kyle Smith is the man, right? And so put him in front. And going back, I have a membership at Westfield and play quite a bit. Matter of fact, I played yesterday before the ceremony.
Great.
That element of it's seamless. It was a seamless transition, and kudos to Kyle and his
Yeah.
team for making that happen. So that was very important. And then the transition to family and faith. So I had a couple things. It's still on the front burner here, but being able to be more engaged with some industry things in regards to faith. I've been working with CJ Coy, Turf Warriors for him on a couple of initiatives. Matter of fact, we're starting. We're going to have our first meeting to have an industry prayer group.
Yeah.
For our members this year is, as we all know, was a very difficult time for superintendents. It was tough weather-wise. It was a tough season. And so we talk a lot about mental health in the
Yeah.
industry, and it's a bigger topic than it's ever been. And you go through a summer like this where people are just stressed and worn out. And it's like, as an industry, I know we've got a lot of probably little things going on, but it's like, and I talked to CJ, it's like, hey, let's put this to the forefront and bring it forward. And so we reached out to a couple of maybe a handful or more of individuals who have expressed their faith in the industry. So on October 15th, we're going to have our first get together to see what we can do from a faith standpoint for the industry, primarily praying for our colleagues in need.
That's great. That's terrific. It's a little bit reminiscent of kind of some of the mental health conversations that we had around the pandemic.
Yeah,
Because,
absolutely.
because I think there was a lot of depression and there was a lot of folks, uncertainty is a terrible thing.
Sure.
So
Yeah.
I think you're spot on with trying to unite a lot of folks with that same message. And hopefully you can do something at the show.
Yeah. So we're looking to do something. So at the show, there's been a standing prayer
Oh,
breakfast
Rick, that's right.
Thursday morning that we do that, but perhaps there could be something outside of that prayer breakfast. We don't know. We're going to be praying about that as well and seeing where the good Lord takes us on that, and certainly want to have more of a presence. I guess maybe at the show would be a different way of saying that too. So yeah,
Good for you.
yeah,
That's great. But the other thing, you and I took a power walk not too long ago,
yeah,
and had a conversation about what you're up to and what's going on. And I thoroughly enjoyed that power walk. I wish we could have just done it all afternoon, but
yeah.
both of us had things to do. But during that conversation, we talked specifically about some of the other things that you're doing. And notably, you've got an involvement in this college golf program designed to kind of do two things. So talk about that program and how you're involved in what it could mean for courses in Ohio and then maybe eventually elsewhere.
Sure, sure. So there's a connection with family, right? And I didn't really talk about family, but with family, been spending more time with the grandkids and my wife and my son-in-law, who is father of five of our grandkids, was a former high school golf coach, and then he moved to Ashland University as the assistant women's
Oh
golf
yeah, yeah,
division too. And he resigned his position last May, and we got to talking. And even prior to his resigning, we're talking about, how can the Division two, three, NAIA, or even junior college golfers hone their skills and develop their skills? Because what he saw at Ashland was their number one and two golfers could participate in higher level competitive events, but their 3 through 12, they didn't really have a place to play. So we put our heads together and created, it's called the Ohio Collegiate Golf Tour. And really, it's a developmental league for golfers to develop their golf skills. But on the flip side of that, for our sponsors that we're going to bring in, there's an opportunity for talent acquisition with the players that we have. And so we're going to build this profile of our players, our members, if you will, our tour members. And so that depending on the sponsorship level that you have, you'll have access to, their majors, their career desires, et cetera. So we can kind of match and marry the players to the sponsors and vice versa for the sponsors, right? So we thought that was a differentiator for us to be able to support and help both sides of that equation.
It's an amazing little idea that has big consequences, because here we are at a time when it's very, very difficult to recruit young people, not just at golf clubs, but in golf adjacent businesses.
Sure.
And I think by creating this opportunity, that's one more way to keep people involved in the sport and in the business.
Yeah. Well, if you think about it too, Pat, so even the careers obviously extend beyond golf, but when you look at the business of golf, right, those that conduct business on the golf course, if you have somebody that's played collegiately and has, whatever stroke average, that they'll be able to contribute to business on the golf course. So we're going after sponsors who understand the value of entertaining on golf courses and conducting business on golf courses. So we're really forward to that. And right now we've got we're going to have 8 events next year. I think we've got 6 clubs lined up right now, so we're still working with 2 others to get them nailed in. But it's in Northern Ohio right now. A lot of the clubs, Overland Golf Club, Catawba Island Club, Plumbrook Country Club, Worcester Country Club. So some in Northern Ohio. Next year, we would look to expand outside of Northern Ohio into Central Ohio, and maybe have an event down in the Southern Ohio, Dayton area, just to kind of, once again, start slow and build big, right? We don't want to build this too big. And ultimately, pie in the sky. If you ask me where this is 10 years from now, it'd be great to say we franchised it, right? But like I say, one step at a time. And so, Adam's done a phenomenal job with getting the technology side of things set up, and from an administrative standpoint, going through the LLC setup, the legal, the financial, all that good stuff. So I think we make a really good team.
I'm shocked that you have everything buttoned down.
Yeah.
No, it's a great idea. And it's just one of those things that wouldn't have gotten done had you not been in your next chapter, and that you had the time to pursue something that is universally, I think, viewed as a good idea. You just take somebody like you to get it done. And the other thing that you're focusing your attention on, which I think is fascinating, is trying to dig down on risk management issues for golf clubs, and particularly perhaps for the golf course operation, the agronomy operation, but kind of taking some of the stuff that you learned over the years of working for Westfield, and moving it out into the community of golf courses. Tell me about that.
Yeah. So my last 2 or 3 years at Westfield, and actually throughout my career, we worked with our loss control team at Westfield with our facilities and making sure.
Can you to explain to everybody what Westfield is? Okay.
Oh, yeah. So thank you for that. Yes. So Westfield Country Club is owned and operated by Westfield Insurance, right? Regional property casualty insurance company. Actually, now we're international. We've got offices in London and Dubai. And so I guess we're more than regional now. That's the old school tagline, right? But we've grown and expanded, and we have our home base is Westfield Center, Ohio. We have about 2,000 employees roughly that work out of the home office, and been around since 1848. So stability is just absolutely awesome. Culture.
And I'm sorry, but one of the few corporate golf clubs, organizations that's still out there. That used to be not uncommon.
Yeah.
It's less common now because I think corporations had different goals. but
Sure.
there couldn't be more than 15 or 20 of them left around the country, right?
Yeah, if that. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's they're few and far between,
yeah.
and yeah, very very unique.
So there's always been this wonderful relationship between Westfield and golf, but
Right.
now you're interested in maybe taking that and explain and expanding on that. So tell
Yeah.
us.
Yeah, so last couple years, really working hand in hand with our underwriting and our loss control team in regards to golf courses. So Westfield has this hospitality insurance program, lodging, restaurants, food and beverage, and then country clubs and golf courses. And so, as a differentiator for the insurance company, they're like, hey, we've got some subject matter operational experts here. Let's learn more about that, and vice versa. So, myself and my team, particularly Kyle, was involved with some walkthroughs at our facilities. And then 3 years ago, I had a conversation with one of our loss control guys, Mike Alms, who's been at Westfield forever. He goes, hey, do you know that we insure Muirfield Village Golf Club? I said, no, didn't know that. Hey, do you know, in the same breath, do you know we insure the Memorial Golf Tournament? I didn't know that. And so probably should know that. And so he's like, I would like you, if you could, to join us in our preparation meetings. And so I was invited to a Zoom meeting, and actually we had a series of them. But on that call was Nicholas LaRocca, who's general manager at
Yep.
Muirfield.
A legend in that world.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah, for sure. The whole LaRocca family, without a doubt. And Chad Mark, I don't think Chad was in that meeting, but we talked about Chad a little bit. So
Yeah.
we quickly connected the dots with industry and risk management. And so we went down for some site inspections, and I learned a lot about the risk control, loss control side of things. And Mike in particular, learned a lot about what superintendents do. Because,
Right.
for example, I think I shared this with you. They're looking at the ground, they're looking for slip, trips, and falls and all that stuff. And I'm like, hey, what about that branch up in the tree that was over the cart path?
Right.
And he's like, simple thing, right? Never thought to look up there. And it's like, well, that's what we do as superintendents every day. We're around our golf course, we're looking for perfection, and anything that's not perfect we'll address and so forth. So that opened his eyes to what we do. So that learning experience the last couple of years at Westfield really helped me out in the safety part of it too, Pat. The employee safety is a huge part of it. Once again, going back to the caring about your employees and the well-being of your employees, and just making sure that those programs are set up, and not only set up but executed. I think there are a couple of vendors out in the industry who do a phenomenal job of providing you information, right? But once you get that information, how do you implement it? So that implementation part of it, I think there's a little gap in our industry with that.
So the for example would be, how would you go in and work with, Shady Acres Country Club, as just a fake example?
Yeah,
How would you go in there and present this idea, or offer them the opportunity to learn some things?
yeah. So initially, Pat, the thought is to go in and do just general education, understand, quite frankly, how the facility works their safe. Number one, do they have a safety program? And then number two, how do they implement training? How do they document? How do they do all of that stuff? And then how do they hold each other accountable? And I think that accountability word sometimes scares people, right? Because, I don't have time to do certain things, and
They won't let me fix anything the way
yeah,
I want to
yeah,
fix it. Right.
yeah, yeah. And so from that, I think you bring in the human element about, we always had an adage at Westfield on the green staff about, we want to make sure people go home the same way they come in, right? And so I learned through a couple of experiences at a couple of the clubs, that just really traumatic experiences with accidents and people losing toes and half foots and stuff like that. It's like, I don't want to ever have any of my employees, in that situation. Not that we're perfect, but that's what we strive toward, right? And I think that element, Pat, of bringing that culture, it's a culture of safety in, and it's repetitive touch points, right? And with the technology that we have today, just like what we're doing, reach out to us. Hey, let's just, how are you doing with the program? And where are we? And have some KPIs with that to understand what you're doing.
It feels to me like one more thing a superintendent can embrace, not only to make a better workplace for them, their team and themselves, but also to do the right thing for their club. I
Yes.
think so many clubs are moving to another level in terms of management and wanting to make sure that their entire staff is well taken care of. This seems to fit right with that trend.
Yeah. That's a great point, Pat, because I think a lot of times this safety element gets, once again, we'll get to it when we can, or if we have money, well,
Yeah.
and Pat, you've been to enough golf facilities. I know the minute you step foot on grounds of the maintenance facility that they're either um, top of the club. I'm not talking about superintendents because I know the superintendents love their people, right? But there's some constraints, sometimes self-imposed, that they put money toward the welfare of their employees, and those that don't, quite frankly, shame on them.
Yeah.
Because these are humans, they're guys and gals like you and I that come to work every day and work in an environment that needs to be safe and needs to be friendly.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, let's go back to that original statement of we're in the best of golf, the best golf economy ever.
Yeah.
And so I'm not sure that I'm willing to listen to excuses when those opportunities are there to make it a better workplace and keep your people healthier.
Yeah.
So, well, so can people reach out to you now and find out more about this? Have you reached that point where you're starting to talk to people outside the organization about it?
Yeah, so I am. A matter of fact, I've had a conversation or two with some people about that. And between the LLC and this, trying to bring things on board, it's been a little bit of a challenge, trying to make the other things into it as well. So certainly, I don't have a website yet for this, where it's still work in progress. But certainly, if people want to reach out to me, they can give me a call. I don't know. We can leave any information on.
We'll make sure they know where to find you.
Perfect. Yeah.
Okay.
Here's the other thing with this. It's safety and risk management, but there's also other components to this. Developing best practices or developing standards for your facilities, your golf courses. To make sure, once again, with this summer being so challenging, I've heard a couple of stories about, boards being, or members being disenchanted with conditions provided under these extreme conditions. And, the superintendents this year are put into a position of stress and pressure, and they don't have the resources to maintain, the Augusta or the Muirfield. These smaller clubs want that. And so there's a disconnect there, and it's about connecting the dots between the reasonable expectations, I guess, Pat, that you would say, and many clubs probably have standards, some probably don't, but that standard setting ties into the resource allocation of these facilities. So if you want those conditions and standards, then, let's take a look at increasing, whatever it is, and the budget line item.
And also creating a workplace where people want to be there. That's so important. You can have the resources, but if you're not doing things to make sure that your employees are safe and happy and comfortable and want to come to work, then you're going to lose them.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, don't call it a retirement. I don't know what it is that you're doing, but it ain't retirement. I get that question every once in a while. Hey, Jones, you have retirement. And I'm like, let me tell you about my 7 clients and the fact that, I may not have to go to an office every day, but I keep pretty busy. And I think you probably feel the same way.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's for me, it's somewhat of a calling, because it's still, you're helping people, right? You're impacting lives, and you want to make a difference is kind of a cliche, but I like to make an impact and let people know that I'm here, we're here for each other. And I'll go back to, you talked about my presidency at GCSAA. One thing that we did do is we tweaked the mission statement for GCSAA. We added the word community in the mission statement, in that element of community for all of us, right? We are a community. We belong. We want to belong. And within our community, there are subsets of communities, right? Whether it's the equipment managers, leading ladies turf, whatever that may be, but we all want to be part of a community. And I think that's important. And that, what I'm doing right now, and what you're doing, Pat, we're engaging in community, and we're informing. We want to let them know that we're here to provide services that will enhance their facilities and themselves, quite frankly, sometimes.
Well, that spirit of community has been around for a century now.
Yeah.
Thank you, people like you who helped to continue this. And I couldn't be happier to be part of this community, and I'm pretty sure you're loving it too.
Yeah, it's awesome to be a part of this community.
That's going to be my final word. That's as good a conclusion as we can have. You have passed the TurfZoom test mark, Jordan. I thank you for your time, but I also thank you for everything you've done for this industry that no one will ever know about. All the hours of volunteer work. For years, I've told people that there are about 300 people in this industry who work their butts off as volunteers and do essentially a second job. And you've always been one of those that we could rely on. So I just want to say thanks.
Thanks, Pat. I appreciate it. Appreciate being part of the Zoom call here.
Absolutely. And all of you all, stay tuned for more TurfZooms in the future, brought to you by the Aquatrolls Company. And if you want to reach out to Mark, we'll provide some information for you to get in touch with him and find out more about his not retirement.
All right. Thanks.